and record. So, all right. So this is our
Mine's still loading.
Getting things done. What was that? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought somebody said something. And I'm going to say right now, of course, this is never any topic really, but a comprehensive, like, you know, we're going to talk about this and then it's going to be like waving a magic wand and everything's going to get done.
My screen's frozen.
I wish I had that for me, but that doesn't mean that we can't do anything. And that's a super important part, I think, of this whole topic, is realizing that we can do something. So one of the things I found, a quote that I really like and wanted to share with you, by Bruce Lee, of all people. Never really known a whole lot about Bruce Lee, but I thought that this was really appropriate, that a successful warrior is an average man with laser-like focus, because the reality is, when you look at people that are super successful, they don't have any kind of magic genetic makeup either to make them successful. They certainly have traits that serve them well. But very often, the people who are really successful are not even the best at what they do. They're not necessarily the smartest and, you know, all that sort of thing. I can remember hearing on this subject one time someone talking about Dr. Phil and how he's this, you know, big celebrity psychiatrist and, or, you know, therapist or what have you. And he's not it's not because he's the best therapist in the world. It's not because he is so much better than every other therapist. It's because he has done things and positioned himself and taken actions that end up, you know, putting them on this path and giving him a lot of success. But if you were to compare him against probably every other psychiatrist in the world, he may not be all that good. Who knows, you know? But, you know, he is still in a position that he is, because you can take an average person, and nothing against Dr. Phil. He may be the most brilliant one. I don't know. But it has a lot more to do with what we do with what we're given than, you know, kind of where we start from. Excuse me 1 second. I've got somebody. I always want to check texts when we're doing something like this in case people are having trouble again. Oh, Suzanne said it froze up and she isn't able to reload it. Are you guys having any trouble hearing or seeing?
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not. And I was checking my team to see if any of them were gonna get on here.
Because some of them,
which I don't know. I can't multitask.
Said they were going to.
I know Trace is on her way to work.
Oh, Janine's on twice.
Well, I was on my phone, and now I'm gonna join on my computer. I was had been having trouble with my computer.
Oh, now you're muted.
Am I there now?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just had been having trouble with my computer, so I jumped on with my phone first, and then.
Gotcha.
But no video. Huh, okay.
All right, that is so weird. Suzanne just sent me a screenshot of this timed out error that she got. Oh, there she is. Hi, Suzanne, are you back with us?
I'm here.
Okay.
Yay.
Good. Yay.
Sorry.
Janine, what about you?
I'm here, but you guys, looks like you can't see me, hey?
We cannot see you. We see a little icon that says UCAM.
Okay. Well, I don't know what to do.
Can you see us and the screen?
I can see you, and I just have to say I can see that both you and Cheryl are having great hair days, so I just want to say that. I think it's a nice thing to hear.
Oh, well, thanks. Okay, so we've got our little quote here, Suzanne. This is the encouragement. One of the encouragements is that we can be average and still be amazing and successful. Woohoo!
I'm not having a good hair day.
All right, so we're going to actually take a little bit of a detour before we get into the sort of planning and scheduling stuff, which is so important. However, we can have all of the great tools and ideas and plans and calendars and planners in the world, and they are not going to do us any good without some more foundational parts of what we're doing. And so with that in mind, we're going to start with why. And I'm coming to believe that this is such an important thing in so much of what we do. And that being the thing that kind of drives us. And this might be something that, I think probably all of us have heard that, what's your why, or talk with other consultants about what's their why. And I've always heard that. That's a pretty common thing. And I always struggle a little bit with it as far as so what is my why? I don't know. This is not the same as a goal. Okay. And one of the things I've heard lately that was a good way to describe it was relative to talking about the success of Apple, the Apple company. And the why of Apple from the very beginning was not to sell computers. It was basically to innovate, to kind of turn upside down the status quo when it came to electronics, to go against sort of, what was already happening out there. And hi, Janine, there's your little face.
Hi, there I am.
And the way that they did that was through computers. But the purpose of what they were doing was not computers. Does that make sense? It was much more, a much more basic, wanting to kind of push back and expand things and go against the grain a little bit of what was currently happening out there.
That may be why 25% beta.
Suzanne, could you do me a favor and mute your thing?
I'm sorry, I thought
That's okay. Thanks. We've all done that. So that being the why, and it's one of the reasons in this thing I was listening to, they talk about how other electronics companies tried to do things like, Dell, that is known for making computers, and they tried to do an MP3 player. I didn't even know they ever did. But it was not successful because people purely saw Dell as a computer company, because that was kind of what they put out there. Whereas Apple has been able to go into different things related, but really quite different in the phone and in, their MP3 players and different things that came about because they were examples of their desire to push back, to kind of be rebels, to disrupt the status quo and introduce innovation. And so that was really the part that's their why. And then initially it was computers was like the means that they used to do that. Okay. Which to me started to make more sense. And I think is really important when we talk about why we're doing certain things, because like I said, we can have a great system and schedule, but if we're not really engaged in what we're doing, then we're never going to get to the point where that in and of itself is going to do it for us. Okay. So it is very important to kind of discover this, to figure it out, to give it some thought. And we could do an entire workshop on that, and maybe we will sometime. So I don't want to go, so much into that. And you may have already thought about this, or you may be like me where you kind of heard it and you're like, okay, yeah, I guess my why is because I want to, pay off my car. That's not a why. Okay, that's something that you want to do. That's part of this picture, this bigger picture that is going to give you maybe something like financial freedom or just freedom in general. And the vehicle for doing that is your Pampered Chef business. And what it's going to include is paying off my car or retiring my husband or, going full time in an RV like we'd like to do. So those are goals that are kind of, going to be the side effect. But the why is a more basic thing. So looking at that and discovering it for ourselves and then sharing it. And I do think that that's really important. It can be with your family, with your Pampered Chef family, with your team members, with people that you work with in general. It's one of the things that you go back to Apple that they do. Their advertising, and they talked about some advertising Apple does. Their advertising is about, we believe that we should expand our horizons, that we should push back and we should, innovate, and we should do all these things. And oh, by the way, we sell computers to do that. So when the thing they lead with is not, you should buy our computer and this is why, because it's fast or it's pretty or it's whatever. Those are things that are secondary, okay? So when we're looking at our why, we should lead with in our own mind and with the people that we work with, those underlying causes or beliefs that are an important part of what we do and are bringing to the table, okay? you guys have any thoughts on that? Or have you ever thought about this and kind of what your why is? And if so, would you want to share it?
I think that really sort of changes things. And it's funny because after 16 years of hearing, we need to figure out our why, I feel like we've been doing it wrong all this time. Like, because the why, and like when you tell your story, it becomes more about the goals that you have, like you said, which is not the same thing as the why.
Mm-hmm.
The goals are like the means to the end,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the end is the why.
Right.
And
right.
that kind of gives me pause a little bit.
It's sort of like when you think back to Doris Christopher and you hear about her story of starting Pampered Chef. Yes, she wanted to have a job. She wanted to do something that she could stay home with her kids. And that was an important aspect of it. But the reason she chose to do Pampered Chef, the reason she built this company was because of her desire to bring people back to the table. That was her mission. And it still is. It chokes me up even now, because and really it's interesting because we've kind of gone back to that, even as far as our mission statement as a company or our tagline, enriching lives, bringing people back together and connecting with people. That's the why. We do it by giving them a great quick cooker so they can get dinner on the table. We do it by providing a business opportunity so people can do certain things that they want with that business. But the mission of Pampered Chef is not selling a quick cooker. Does that make sense? The why, the purpose of the company is not to sell a quick cooker. That's sort of the side effect or the means by which they do it. The goals of the company, when it comes to, we have these goals of selling this much or, and bringing this many new consultants in, that's like you said, the means to an end. That's because by bringing in 5,000 new consultants this month, we're going to be enriching that many lives. We're going to be spreading what Pampered Chef has to offer to all of those people, the consultants themselves and everyone they're going to touch. That's the purpose. And that's what we need to convey. And I think that we need to convey that as individual business owners and as a company in a very public way, but in our own minds and hearts, we need to recognize it and embrace it and remind ourselves of it and make that part of what we're doing and realizing that this is what might only be a food chopper today. That's not a big deal, but that's sort of the tangible example, if you will, of this bigger mission that the company has, and then our individual mission, which may be also to, bring people back to the table to create connections. That certainly can be part of our individual missions and our own why, but there can be other things as well. It doesn't have to be, I think, just one certain thing. I think that we've all, pretty much bought into, if you will, that mission that the company has, which is why, especially those of us that have been doing it for a long time, part of the reason we're still here is because it's something that we believe in and we want to be a part of. And so we can also then take that and extend that in our own part of the world to bring that mission to life.
So it's sort of like a mission statement. And before you even said mission, I was thinking that, like the why is the mission statement of our individual businesses.
Right. Yeah. Carol, you have any thoughts on this?
My why is pretty sharp. It's pretty, well, I won't get into all of it, but I actually said it on the way back from conference this year. I think I know why I do this. And a lot of it is because, it's hard to put into words, that, okay, I don't think I can say it. Just basically, I've never felt like that I was like good enough for certain things. And those that know me know my situation. And so this is for me something that I'm doing for me. Nobody's giving it to me. I'm working really hard at it. And regardless if certain people in my life ever see what I do and what I've done, and sometimes I feel like I change people's lives. I don't care because I'm doing this for me. And I know that this is something that when you're in a tough situation, Pampered Chef can really literally save you. in a kind of a non-biblical sense, you know what I'm saying? But it can make you can make you an individual where once you thought you might have been not individual, it can also give you the self-confidence to do the things that you never thought you could do.
Yeah.
That's all I can probably get into about without like getting upset.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And that sounds awesome. Okay, so we're starting with the why. The next step in this, there are sort of 3 phases that we're going to start with, is choosing your goals. Because when you, and kind of bridging from the why part of it, the mission, the underlying, this is what I want to do. The goals are where it kind of becomes something we can define, something that is more concrete, that we can measure, that we can, say, okay, this is what I want to sort of end up with. This is my mission. This is my desire. This is how I'm going to put it into practice. So for example, if you were looking at your goals, like if your why was to raise responsible children, your goal might be teaching them to do their own laundry, or to make some dinner, or to do, whatever it is that they might want to do. Because, and those raising responsible children, as a why, there are a lot of family and relationship aspects to, often what one of our whys might be, whether it's to do with our business or not. But the goal part of it then becomes, okay, what does it actually look like? How is that going to play out? Okay. More related to our business, if your why is to achieve financial freedom, then your goal is, okay, so I'm going to use Pampered Chef as my vehicle to do that. What is that going to look like? What do I consider financial freedom? Does that mean to be able to completely support my family? Is it to be able to make, pay this one bill, or to pay off our debt, or whatever that, and it's going to be different for everybody. But this is where the actual goals, I think, are kind of the, where the rubber hits the road, so to speak, to take that mission that I have and start to distill it down into something where I can say, okay, now this is what I take action on in order to fulfill this mission. Going from there, then I believe the next thing and the third component of this is the mindset. And having that mission, or that why, and the goals that are going to be kind of part of that, and the mindset of really embracing and believing that you can do it. Because it's fine to say, this is what I'd like to do, and this is my mission. I believe that this is, what's important to me. But sometimes there's a disconnect between that desire and us really believing that it's possible, that this is an actual thing that I can do. And, I think that happens a lot with people. Oh, well, that looks great. I'd love to do that, but I can never do it. I'm not fast enough, or strong enough, or smart enough. I don't have the resources. I don't have this or that. I don't have the right personality. Sometimes feeling like I'm not worthy of it. This is a goal that is for other people, and that's not really something that, that I should even be aspiring to. Those are a lot of things that come into the mindset that then ends up derailing the goals that we have. And, we need to find the spot where we're saying, this is what I want. This is how I want to feel. And this is what I want to see happen. And this is all what I want to do. And I believe that can actually happen. I believe that I can do it. I believe that it can be done, that I can do it, then I'm worth doing it. So that comes into, I think, your attitude, and that positive attitude. And I love this, training your mind to see the good in every situation, and being able to take really any situation, and not to say, oh, everything's fine and bad things happen, but I don't care, everything's coming up roses. It's not that. It's being able to literally, take situations and try to find whatever it is that is good, or turn it into something that is going to be a good and positive thing. And we hope that, most of what we're doing is good and is positive, and that's just a kind of an outlook that we can cultivate. But certainly there are times that it can be challenging, whether it's a really big thing or just a small little thing that's kind of a speed bump. But you get enough of those speed bumps that can start to weigh you down. And so it is really important to check your mindset and to really maintain a positive attitude and train your mind to see the good and look for the good in every situation that you're in. And the second part of that, though, is belief. Because you can have a great positive attitude. That does not necessarily mean that you see yourself in that picture, in that, in very real, believing that it's possible. So when you've decided what you want, you've got the mission statement, the why, and the goals that support that. But believing that you can have it, that it's possible, believing that you deserve it, and it's possible for you, and that you can make this happen. I think that these are things that can be really a game changer, but are very often overlooked. I think a lot of this is overlooked because it feels kind of like fluff. And we go, well, just, let's just talk about, how to work with my calendar. And we're going to do that in a minute. But like I said, none of that is going to work if we don't actually have this. We can set up a nice, pretty calendar, but nothing's going to happen with it if we're not really engaged mentally and, in all these different ways with what we want to be doing. Right. So moving beyond that, there are some things too that we're going to do. The first one, once we've said, okay, so this is my why, this is what I want to do, this is why it's important to me, and I believe that I can do it. Okay, next step is to really commit to it and make that decision that I am going to do this. This is not a dream. This is not a wouldn't it be nice, wouldn't it, a wish, kind of floating around out there somewhere. And, really being committed to what we want to do is absolutely necessary. I mean, really, because everything else that comes after that is kind of the details of figuring out, what's the best calendar for me. But again, if that commitment's not there, then none of that's going to do any good. So making sure that this stuff that we came up with, whether, with our why and our goals, that they are things that we want to commit to. Because that can happen sometimes too, especially if the goal is not really your own. If it's somebody else's goal for you, if it's what somebody else thought that you should be doing, or you looked at somebody else, maybe they didn't say you should, but you see somebody else doing this thing over here and you're like, oh, that's what I should be doing because A, B, and C, whatever. But it's not really your own personal why and your own personal goal. You see what I mean? And you're not going to commit to things. You're not going to necessarily go through the thought process of I refuse to commit to that, but you're not really going to be excited about embracing it and feeling, oh gosh, how wonderful this is that I get to work toward this, when it really is not something that you have come up with as an actual personal why and a goal. Does that make sense? Maybe?
Yeah.
Okay. So the commitment absolutely is something that we want to do. And, realizing that, we kind of get things in line. And I know that some of us have talked about this before, because that, you start to recognize, okay, so if this is what I'm committed to, but it's a lot easier over here to do this, then you're looking at, as this quote says, the changes are going to come when you're more committed to your dreams than your comfort zone. When your why is bigger than your why not, kind of a thing, or why should I not do something? The reason to do it is stronger and bigger and more powerful than the reasons not to do it. So, that's where we're kind of getting into that shift. Okay, so once
or the excuses.
Yes, or the excuses. Yes, exactly, is what that comes down to. Because as they say, you can't do both. You can have success or you can have excuses. You can't have both. Sometimes you can make money or you can make excuses.
Yeah, definitely. Can you flip back to that last slide just for a second?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. I just wanted to take a picture of it.
Okay. All right. No problem. Okay, so we've got commit. So once we've got the commit, we've got the goals, we've got the why, we're all excited, we believe, we've got the good attitude. So let's move into the nitty-gritty part. Okay, now what? We got to actually do something, right? So we're going to come up with a plan. Now, I'm not going to go way into the details of the plan because your plan is based on your goals, right? So not everybody's plan is going to be the same. So we're not going to work on a specific plan, because even just among the four of us that are on here right now, and even more so for anybody watching the recording, your plan's not going to look like mine or Suzanne's or Cheryl's or Janine's exactly. Probably some overlap, but not exactly. I think the thing to realize, though, is you got to have a plan, because no amount of why and goal setting and belief and commitment is going to make things just happen on their own, right? You're going to float for a whole long time and be very discouraged and disappointed if you're taking all of those things that you're very excited about and feeling really, really emotional, really, really powerful stuff. And then you go, okay, world, take care of it. Make it happen. Again, we don't consciously say that, probably, but I think that sometimes by our action or lack of action, or lack of planning or lack of engagement, that's what we're essentially doing. Our goals and our aspirations are not in line with what we're actually doing. So that's where the plan comes in. So as it says here, a dream written down becomes a goal broken into steps becomes a plan, and a plan backed by action becomes reality. So the plan is certainly critical. Now, you can also have a plan. Come up with a beautiful plan. You got your goals, you got your plan, you got your, this is what I'm going to do. And then it sits there, right? And a week goes by, and another week goes by, and a month goes by, and you go, oh, that's right, I was going to do that thing on my plan. And then the results were going to be great, and I was really excited about that, but I kind of forgot about it. I think we've all been there, right? So we're trying to, minimize that.
I think she's talking about me. I don't know, but I'm sure.
Right?
And you?
Be aware of these tendencies and go from this beautiful plan that we've developed into the next step, which is doing it. You are what you do, not what you say you'll do, which is a very simple statement, but I think also kind of a, yeah, that makes sense. If I say that I'm going to, go to the gym every day, clearly that's not the same as actually doing it. And so it is important to make a plan and make that commitment. But what if it doesn't carry over to the action, the doing, then, well, so much for that, right? So let's make sure we got the plan, we start doing it. And then, though, this is the real kicker, okay? Get ready. Do it again. And again. And again. Cheryl, are you leaving because you're so disgusted?
She's done.
Girl's like, I'm out.
I'm out.
Forget it. I don't want to hear that. Now.
Ginger wants to join.
I was just kidding. And I think that this is
Ira nursing.
Oh, hello, Ginger.
Hi.
This is huge for many people, absolutely for me and many other people that I've talked to, because we can make a plan, we can have great intentions, we can do something, and that's sort of the end of it. And then we look back and we go, wow, yeah, I did that for a while and it really worked well. Why did I stop? Right? Or, this was something, I had a really great month, and then I kind of got lazy because I thought, oh, I've got all these shows going on. I don't need to continue talking to people about bookings because I had some bookings, right? So do it again. Do it, then do it again, and keep doing it. And I love this quote. I think it's one of my favorites. Aristotle, okay? We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. It's not a one-time deal. It's not a one and done. It's what we do repeatedly. Good things. It has to be good, productive stuff that we're doing, not just any habit. But when we find something and find those things that are effective, and we can, kind of, improve ourselves, but then continuing to do it and making that part of our routine and part of our habit. And the good news is, I absolutely believe it gets easier the more we do it. It's like anything else. When you're brushing your teeth every day, you don't have to remember how to brush your teeth. You probably don't even have to remember to brush your teeth. Many times it's just the habit. You get up and you go to the bathroom and you whatever and you brush your teeth. And certainly once you start doing it, you don't have to remind yourself. When you're a little kid, or when you had your own little kids, you showed them how to brush their teeth, right? Move it up and down like this. Okay, get in the back now. We'll get your gums and go around in a circle and whatever it is. Well, by the time they are adults, at least, they're just doing it. They're brilliant at brushing their teeth. We all are. It's amazing. But a lot of things are the same way. And so making something a habit really is cool in that it's not that if it was a little bit challenging in the beginning and then we're like, okay, I did this thing and it was kind of out of my comfort zone, but it really worked well. And I had great shows and I was having a great show average. Well, if you keep doing those things, it's easier to maintain that habit than it is to stop and start and stop and start. So really it's to our own advantage, certainly in the results that we're getting, also in the fact that the ease of working our business, and just in how much fun it is and how much better we feel about it, so that you're not over and over going, well, I did have a good month, but now I have a bad month, and then I had a good month, and now I had a bad month, and you get discouraged and frustrated and feel like you're spinning your wheels. So those habits that we want to get into are just a huge key to getting things done. You guys have any thoughts about any of this? Commit, plan, do it again.
Well, I think for me, I'm kind of sitting here thinking while you're talking, no offense, like I'm not trying to not listen to you. I am listening.
It's okay for you to think.
Okay, good. In fact, I wrote down on my notes, what is keeping me from excellence? Looking at this slide about what we repeatedly do. And like, I'm thinking what I repeatedly do is let things come in out of left field and derail my plan. Like, that's what I repeatedly do. So I have to stop doing that. Like
then I guess we need to tweak this quote a little bit, because excellence is not a habit, but lack of is also, or not an act, but a habit. But the lack of results is also a habit.
Right, exactly. I mean, that's,
So the correct thing is we are what we repeatedly do, period.
Right.
Everything is not an act, but a habit. No matter whether the results are good or bad, that fact that we are what we repeatedly do is just neutral. We can use that for good or evil. That's sort of the superpower that we have, and we can choose if we are, going to use it to our advantage to excel, or if we are going to allow it to keep us from excelling when our habits are not serving us.
Right.
Right. So I think that's a great observation, Janine, because really you can go, well, I do have habits. That's my problem. They are not habits that are serving you. So we're going to shift that and make it so that the habits are working toward excellence instead of whatever the opposite is.
Right.
Disappointment, discouragement, right?
Well,
okay.
Yeah.
So let's get a little bit into some of the nitty gritty here and talk about a plan. And a few different components of the plan. Talking about really timing is how we're going to approach this. And the first thing we want to talk about is monthly. And every month, of course, making sure that we are aware of what's happening. And the most basic part of this is really being in charge of what's happening instead of just allowing things to come at you that you're unprepared for. We don't want everything in life to catch us by surprise. The fact is, some things are going to catch us by surprise, but not everything has to. And there are a lot of things that we end up allowing to throw us for a loop, where with some prior planning, they wouldn't have had to, because they weren't really a surprise. I knew about those parent-teacher conferences 4 months ago. Now all of a sudden, it's next Tuesday. I'm not ready for it. I've got a conflict because I booked a show that night. Well, it's not because that parent-teacher conference really came up at the last minute. It's because I wasn't forward thinking about my schedule, right? Now, there are going to be things that come up at the last minute, but we want those to be the exception rather than the rule. Okay, so that's where the planning and the scheduling and calendar and all that kind of stuff come into play. So that's what we're talking about here, is being proactive about the things that you have to work with. Now, again, not a lot of detail here, because every one of us, the 4 on here, our days and weeks and months are going to look different. So I'm not going to sit here tonight and say, okay, Cheryl, this is what your calendar should look like, and Suzanne, this is what yours should look like, or anything like that, because that is going to be personal and different for each of us. But that's the power of this, you guys, because there's not one way to do it. Okay. And I know with Cheryl and Janine, we've talked about this before, about, some other people, like say within Pampered Chef, where we're looking at, gosh, I wonder what their days look like. What do they actually do? The fact is, it doesn't matter, because what they do is not going to be what you do. And we can get really caught up in, if I could just copy that, if I could just duplicate that, you can't. And they can't duplicate you. I mean, if you took one of those people that's doing whatever successful thing with their business and you plunked them into your life, that would be different. You know, I mean, that would be a whole different story as well. So we need to just kind of just like let that go. Other than whatever we can learn from them, that's great. It's like somebody else doing a cooking show and they've got a great show average. You go, what can I learn from them? You're not going to walk into your cooking shows and do exactly their show. That would never work. You would look, it would be weird. People would be like, that's not even you. What do you, where'd Janine go? You know what I mean? So we're not going to copy every bit of them, but we can learn from people. So we can listen to things like that last coffee talk, that was about time management. That was great. And, we can get ideas from people. We can take those kind of things and make it into something that works for us. But I do think that's important to not get too bogged down in looking for the perfect thing. And that, gosh, this person that's having this success, they must have it all figured out. And if I could just copy them, then I'd be fine, because I just don't believe that it works like that. All right. So instead, what we want to do is make what works for you and for me and for everybody else in our own personal way. All right. But I think there are certainly some things that we would probably find effective that everybody else, other people who are working effectively do as well. Cheryl, do you want to say something?
No, I will hire you.
Uh-huh.
I will hire you if you will come and go, okay, I believe in this spot you need to do, you can, I
would be happy to do that, Cheryl. You don't even have to hire me. I would be happy to do one-on-one and work on that with you. We just can't do it tonight. But we can absolutely, you tell me next week, you come to Clarksville, or I'll go out there, we'll go to lunch and we'll sit down and work here, or I'll come to your house so we can look at your, at your stuff.
I got 20 dogs. Not in my house.
But I am absolutely happy to look at your details with you and see what we can come up with. So that's totally fine. So, all right, let's get back to monthly, because we're going to kind of get back to that. That is the first thing we're going to talk about and this is where, when you're looking at a month at a time, is kind of the big things. All right. If you work another job, you've got those shifts on there, or those hours that, to the extent that, depending on how far out, kids' activities, doctor's appointments, your cooking shows, meetings, anything that you already know about. Now, very often, if you're reviewing this, say at the end of August, and you're looking at September, all those things are probably, or a lot of them are probably already on the calendar, because you put them on as you go. When you book a cooking show, you go put it on your calendar, right? When you make that doctor's appointment's on there. So you just want to kind of get an overview of, this is what the month looks like. And where I have to work with. You might be also at that point going, okay, these are all the things I have on here. Now this is where I'd like to book some shows, if your calendar's not where you want it to be, or there's, some, things like that. But you're looking at a pretty broad overview at that point. But I think it's a kind of a good spot to start, just once a month, toward the end of one month, take a look at the next month. I wouldn't wait till like the last day, because then like the first day of the next month might catch you off guard, right? So if you're doing a monthly thing, maybe like that last week at some point of August, look at September, so that the things early in the month don't, end up sneaking up on you. So I think that's a pretty straightforward thing. Probably most people kind of do that anyway by default, so not anything out of the ordinary. The weekly plan, I think, is something that can be super powerful. All right, what are we laughing at?
I'm laughing at Cheryl sitting there shaking her head like, nope, I don't do that.
Flip the calendar and we're like, oh crap, tomorrow's the
oh crap, I got a show tomorrow.
Like literally.
Me too.
Okay, so like the third week of the month, look at the next month's stuff. Okay, just a quick reminder.
Yeah, this week we need to look at September.
Yes, you do. Yep, there you go.
That's an idea.
Okay, so now let's move on to the weekly thing. Okay, Sunday, take a look at the upcoming week. You could do it Monday morning. I really think Sunday is better. I've kind of gotten in the habit of, I'm in my office on Sunday night from like 8 to 9. Our Life Tastes Great thing is running during that time. I go live at about 8:30 for like 5 minutes, and then till about 9, I'm doing things like calendaring for the next week and, a little bit of stuff like that. So it ends up being an hour, because it includes that Life Tastes Great, thing that's typically running on Sunday nights. So even if it was 15 minutes, I think that is a really good thing to do. Brain dump, which we've talked about that before, just kind of any things that have been floating around, have a spot, a notebook, a spot in your planner that you can just, if there's something that you're like, oh, that's right. And this is just something that's been kind of on my mind, make a list of that if that's helpful to you. Scheduling the Pampered Chef activities that are specific for that week around the things that are already in there. So that means you probably already have in there that the hours that you're working another job, the shows that you have, those doctor's appointments, or kid activities, or whatever that is. So this is where you're going to be looking at specifically for this week, the activities that I need to make sure are happening in and around whatever it is. And doing it weekly, I think, is so important because every week does not look the same. I don't care who you are. Very few people have exactly the same schedule every week. Even people that might work sort of traditional 9-to-5 jobs, probably in the evenings they have different things. Or some weeks, some days they might have that football game after school, or, whatever it is that they need to do. So there are usually some differences. So I think it can be difficult to try to say every Monday I'm going to do this, or every Thursday night I'm going to do this, because things can kind of turn upside down, and we can start to feel like, well, why even bother? Why do we bother trying to have a schedule? Because it doesn't work anyway, right?
Yeah,
so we need to just
go.
Embrace the fact that things are going to be different from week to week, and that's okay. In fact, that's good. It keeps you from getting bored, right? So it's going to mean, though, that we need to schedule our stuff that we're doing within a time frame that's more manageable, and not trying to just set up this schedule that is trying to kind of pretend that we're never going to, run into any differences. The third thing on here is when, not if. So what this is talking about is coming at it from a mindset of when am I going to do these things, not if I'm going to do them. Not saying, well, do I want to do this or not? There will be a few things, I think, in your business that might be okay, that might work for, but I think we need to look at a lot of the activities in our business are not optional. If you really want to be successful, if you want to feel good about what you're doing and do a good job as a consultant and get the results that you want, then you can't just, do sort of the bare minimum urgent things like, I guess I better show up for that show because I said I'd be there, but it's sort of optional if I want to, make customer care calls. There are things that, we want to make sure that we're looking at it as, again, when am I going to do this? Not whether or not I'm going to do that, or if I get around to doing it, all right? Batching your activities as much as possible. This seems like a really obvious thing, but I think for many of us, we tend to be all over the place. And you're like, oh gosh, I need to go to the post office. So I'm going to go, but then I realize, gosh, I need to go to the grocery store too, and I didn't do it, so I'm going back out tomorrow to the grocery store, right? And, things like that. Or when you're doing paperwork, making a whole bunch of host packets, or stamping a bunch of catalogs at the same time, or, getting things, if you're mailing stuff, getting it together at the same time. Maybe you're doing thank you notes for your hosts, and you do them a month at a time. And so I'm going to sit down, some people do that as part of the closing process of their shows. That's fine if that's how you like to do it. I tend to do it like a month at a time, and I'll sit down and write out all the thank you notes in one sitting for the host for that month and get them out. So, kind of finding those things that can allow you to use your time more effectively. Because, the less sort of shifting from one thing to another that we have, the more productive we are. You may have heard a lot about, like multitasking, and how it really is not, you're not doing multiple things at the same time. You're requiring your brain to actually stop this and go to that, even if it's only for a split second, and it takes away from your productivity. So you're better off to spend 10 minutes just stamping catalogs and then move on to something else than be trying to do that, or like do 2 catalogs and then put together a host packet, and do 2 more catalogs and then put together a host packet. Do all the catalogs first, print off all your flyers, do it sort of an assembly line. So some things like that just can make you more productive. Cheryl, were you going to say something?
Well, I was really behind on my thank you cards because, I'm really big about that. And I sat down the other day and watched a little bit of Days of Our Lives. That was like my dessert. And I wrote thank you cards. And I thought that was almost ideal because, I don't really pay full attention to the soap operas, but just because you catch up in a month.
Yeah.
But I never have thought honestly about doing them in batches. And I've gotten to the point now where I'm tired of skipping around things.
Yeah.
So that is totally going to go on my last, maybe like Thursday or Friday of the month.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a set time that I'm just going to do it. Or, you know, if I can, you know,
Right.
thereabouts. So
Mhm.
that's a good idea. I never thought of that.
Good, good, good. Okay, so this last one is talking about this weekly checklist. And so I'm going to switch to the next slide, which shows what that is. And this is something because of the fact that, like I said, we talked about the, you know, doing things, when am I going to do this, not if I'm going to do this. Well, in order to actually take your calendar for the week and schedule in the things that need to be in there, you need to know what you're scheduling. Because what's going to otherwise happen is you schedule the things that have that urgency that are in the, you know, in the front of mind, right? So you're going to put your shows on there. You might put on, if you're doing virtual parties, oh, well, I need to, you know, start this virtual party or close it. But very often a couple things happen. Things that are not right in your face fall through the cracks. And the other thing is that we end up just kind of doing, oh, that's right, I needed to do this. Oh, that's right, I need to do this. And it might be setting up a show. Maybe you're supposed to be starting that show on Friday and you're setting it up on, you know, like Thursday night, going, oh my gosh, I didn't get around to doing this. And now I'm trying to get my host to invite all their friends so we can start this show tomorrow. And they've already gone to bed. Oh, well, you know, I mean, it's a lot of just playing catch up. So again, in the interest of being proactive and actually creating a plan so that you can work it, this checklist is giving you, and it starts out with the activities that kind of came to my mind as things that all of us as consultants should be doing. This list is going to be posted in the organization group. You guys, Cheryl and Janine, are welcome to put it in your team groups as well. I'll probably put it in my personal team group so that people can use this. You can add at the bottom there. You know, there are blank lines to add some additional things. And, you know, you're going to might need to tweak it a little bit, except that really it's pretty consistently the same for any consultant. You know, I think that when we're looking at doing host coaching calls, if you're doing virtual parties, setting those host coaching messages, those are super important to do. Making the booking contacts, whether that's following up on someone that said they wanted to have a show or just reaching out to people that are a potential booking. Same thing with recruit leads, doing customer care. And again, we've got some things they're kind of grouping together, like the paperwork, the errands that you need to run. And then the bottom two are things that I think for many of us are left as sort of, well, if I get around to it, which we all know is code for not going to happen. And so we're looking at here, training yourself, okay? Taking the information that's available for us as consultants to get better at what we do. So this includes all the new training in Dash, things like listening to the Coffee Talk audios, watching YouTube videos on, you know, from different consultants that are doing shows or talking about the way they do things. There are a lot of things out there. And I really believe that we should at least once a week be doing something like this. I know some people do. Cheryl, I know you listen to stuff every day when you walk. I mean, that's great. A lot of people, like if they drive, maybe you have a commute to work. And for some people, it's a long time. You could easily listen to, you know, something like a coffee talk or something on the way to work. But I think that we're really selling ourselves short if we're not taking advantage of that. But it is something that has to be very purposefully included in our plan, or it's not going to happen, because that will absolutely not happen, you know, on its own. And nobody's going to be in your face. No, it's not going to be a host messaging you saying, hey, when are we closing the show? Or when am I getting my stuff? Or here's my order. Those are like the bare minimum things. And yeah, you can skate by in your business doing that, but you're never going to get anywhere beyond, you know, scraping by. Okay. And the last one is that same category as the PC training. And I really believe this is so important. And that's your personal and professional development. I think books are the way to go here. It could be an audio. But, you know, there's so occasionally you'll have come across like a webinar or something like that. There are a lot of, you know, good things like that out there too, or YouTube videos. But not necessarily specifically Pampered Chef training, like a Coffee Talk or a Dash training, but something that's either leadership. And even if for those of our team members who are not directors or, you know, don't have any recruits or anything, you are a leader in your business as a Pampered Chef consultant, because you are the boss of your business. And so don't wait until you have a team, until you have recruits, to build your leadership skills, because you're doing that and have the opportunity to do that with every host, with every potential recruit, with everybody that you talk to about your business. You need to see yourself as the leader of your business, even if you are the only one in the business. Okay. So take this personal professional development stuff and run with it because it's incredibly powerful. So it might be leadership. It might be something like time management. There are great books out there, and I can give you names of books if you're wanting some idea of where to start. They can be specifically about sales sometimes, not Pampered Chef necessarily, but a lot of selling techniques and skills that come into play, whether you're talking about selling somebody a piece of cookware or selling somebody on the idea of hosting a show or joining your team, all that kind of stuff. So there are just endless resources and some really, really good materials. A lot of motivational things. I mean, things that, just can be very inspirational and really, kind of bring you a lot of that sort of boost that we need a lot of times, to get us excited and to, remind us of what we're doing, why we're doing what we do, and that sort of thing. So do yourself a favor. And when you're setting up your weekly calendar, definitely do your booking contacts and customer care and your post office run and closing your shows, but also have at least once a week that you're doing a PC training, a dash, a coffee talk, a YouTube video or something like that. And I would say more than once a week on the reading a book on some topic that's going to develop you as a person. Okay. It might be 10 minutes. It might be all it is. It might be an audiobook and you listen to that on the way to work or even on the way to a show, and it might only be a 10 or 15 minute drive, because if you do that for 15 minutes a day, by the end of the week, it's been over an hour. That's a lot of time that you've had to listen to somebody talking, to absorb some things. So, find some ways to get that into your routine. Now, a couple more words about this checklist thing. So the idea is that you would say, okay, this is September and it's week 1. Now, months don't typically start on a Sunday necessarily. So, the first week of the month, it might actually be starting on the 3rd of September or whatever, the 2nd, I guess, this month or in September. So that's your first week of September. So take your calendar, your planner, whatever that might be. Where's mine? It's in my bag. I don't have it right here. Whatever your planner looks like, if you don't have one, get one. And you want it to have like a column or a chunk for each day, not just the overall monthly calendar, but a daily, like you got your whole week and it has something for each day. Okay. So you're going to take that week 1 and you're going to say, all right, when am I doing host coaching calls? You don't need to write that in here. You just need to get it on your calendar and then put an X or a check mark in this box, okay? And when am I going to make my booking contacts? And maybe I'm going to do that twice. I'm going to do it on Tuesday morning and Friday evening. So I'm going to just put a check mark here, because all that's doing is telling me, yes, it's on the calendar, all right? That's what this checklist is all about. So you don't need to make notes in here. I mean, you can if you want to. But they were trying to keep it super simple. And this is basically your accountability. This is saying these are all the things that really are what a Pampered Chef consultant does, that wants to have a stable, growing business, successful business, get the results that you want. This is what we do. This is what it looks like to be a Pampered Chef consultant. So these are the activities that go along with that and stuff that you're going to be wanting to do every week, and some of them more than once a week. Okay. So you might have your paperwork thing and you might be saying, okay, on Friday, I'm going to write those thank you notes, during All My Children or whatever it is that Cheryl watches. So you might have paperwork like 3 different times during the week, because one of them is doing, making those host packets, and one is doing thank you notes, and one is something else. Just put your check mark in this box. And that's just, again, letting you know I've got the stuff, whatever it is for this week. Now, you might not do thank you notes every week, because if you're doing it once a month for that whole month, you might be doing it in week 1 of September for your August shows. That makes perfect sense. So you're not going to have thank you notes on your calendar in every box for every week of the month, but chances are you're going to have some kind of paperwork that you need to do at some point, during the week, right? Same thing with the rest of these things down here. Now, depending on when your shows are, or when you close them, you might find that not everything has a check mark every single week. But be careful, if there's no check mark, it should be because you consciously looked at that and said, I don't have any shows to close this week, so I don't need a check mark there. That's okay. If you're saying, I don't really feel like making booking contacts, so I don't have a check mark there, that's different, right? So any blank boxes should be a very intentional, this was a choice that I made consciously and knowing exactly what's going on in my business, that I made to not have a check there. Otherwise, if there's an empty box, you might need to say, ooh, gosh, I don't have a check there. I need to go revisit my calendar and see when am I going to make some booking contacts. This might be for 10 minutes on Monday morning. I'm going to send texts out to, as many people as I can do in 10 minutes. Again, the details of this, we're not going to go into that tonight. If you need help with host coaching, we can talk about that. How do I do customer care? Any of those kind of things. We can definitely talk about that. This is not that workshop though, so I don't want to get too caught up in what each of these looks like. The point is they all need to be happening, and we need to remember to make that part of your schedule, because it will not happen on its own. Same thing with your training and your personal professional development. So for me, I've got reading every day of the week on my calendar. It's not the same time every day. Today I was in Nashville, so my reading was listening to an audiobook while I was driving. But there's going to be something every day, and sometimes it is only 10 minutes. Sometimes it just, like, I get caught up in, because I try to do it in the morning, but a lot of mornings I just don't get to it. So it might be 10 minutes before I go to bed, because I'm going to do it because I need to do that, because I just really believe that it's important. So, kind of figure out how that is. So you're going to go through the month and you're going to put your check marks, and every Sunday night or Sunday, you're going to look at this and grab your calendar for the coming week. And where am I going to put all these things? And then what you can also do is look back at the end of the month and say, you know what? I didn't have any check marks in the customer care line for the whole month. Yikes. That's not really a good idea. I need to be making sure that that's part of my business, okay? So this is where it becomes a reminder tool, also an accountability tool. You could also look back there and say, wow, I only had booking contacts in week 2. So that means I had, out of this whole month, figuring maybe 4 weeks to a month, 3 weeks, and I didn't make any booking contacts. No wonder I don't have any shows on my calendar. All right, so use it as a planning tool and also as an assessment tool at the end of the month or at the end of the week, whenever you look at it. And as you start to see patterns develop, it might tell you something about your business. If your show average is not where you'd like it to be, and you notice that you're not doing much in the way of host coaching calls or messages on, for your virtual parties, well, maybe that's something I need to step up. Maybe I need to learn more about doing it, because maybe the reason it's not on here is because I don't feel comfortable with it and I don't know how. So then I need to go and say, instead of just not doing it, I'm going to call Jill, Cheryl, Janine, Teresa, Susanna, my director, or a Pampered Chef buddy, and say, hey, what can I do about host coaching? I know it's important, but I don't know what to do. Or go to Dash, or go to whatever. But again, use this as a tool to remind you on the front end what you want to have on your calendar, and then to review it and assess it and see how those activities are benefiting your business, how the lack of the activities might be dragging down your business and keeping it from being what it could be. Any thoughts or questions on this stuff?
I just be a great accountability tool, and like you said, an opportunity for us to analyze things and see holes and see, and for our teams too, if we can encourage them to use this, it's going to be an opportunity for us to help them see, why am I not getting the results that I want? What's happening? Because I think that's so hard. They struggle to pinpoint it, and if they can't pinpoint it, we can't help them.
Right. And we don't necessarily know either. I mean, and right. For those consultants that are watching the recording later, when you do this form, I mean, also share that with your director at the end of the month. Maybe take a screenshot and send it to your director. And, you can look at it together and maybe evaluate some of the things. And wow, holy cow, you are doing an awesome job being really consistent with customer care. That's something to celebrate. Let's take a look at, some of the PC training thing. That's not really happening so much. What do you like? What form of training do you like? Do you like listening to Coffee Talks? Do you like doing Dash? Where could you fit that into your schedule? Because we as directors would love to work with you on this. Like Janine said, though, we also don't know how we can help. So when you've got a tool like this, that is, first of all, letting you know, and especially for newer consultants, sometimes they don't even know necessarily what they should or could be doing to benefit their business. There's a lot of information coming at people, and maybe you're even a consultant that's been doing it for a while, but you're going, wow, I never really thought about that. I probably should be doing customer care consistently every week. And so those are things that can help you to kind of know what to do, which is one of the primary purposes of this. And also then to kind of be looking at, how am I doing it actually and making that work? You may also want to, down in some of those blank lines, add in some personal things. If you have, maybe you want to go to the gym every day or go for a walk every day or something like that. Or maybe there are certain things in your personal life that you want to kind of create some accountability for yourself and make that part of your habits and your routine. You could make those part of the this checklist as well and factor that into your schedule as you're doing that every week.
I'll say this. I totally agree with Janine. This will be really good for us as directors. But also I can see once we start working this and really owning it, that it'll be, we will be leading by example, and it will be much easier for us to even, Jill, I know you can't look at my life and go, okay, Cheryl, you need to do it here, here, and here. Mm-hmm. But we will be also more able, I guess, to maybe help and say, okay, tell me what your day looks like.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And assist our team to do something like this, because, I do all of this stuff. Do I do it all week, every week? Probably not. Mm-hmm. And this right here will help. And then once we start doing this, I will say this, like people that work out, that go to the gym, that are like, I don't mean like bodybuilders, like competition, but people that really go to the gym and really do that, they have a check sheet of what they've done, and it's broken down by muscle. And so it's like, you do these for your lats, or these for your abs. And they go through, I mean, I've seen them at the gym.
I remember I used to do that at the gym. You'd have your feet in the little file thing, and you'd go pull your card out, and you'd carry it around to the different machines, and you'd put what weight you used and how many reps you did, and then you could compare what you did last week and, that kind of stuff. So, yeah, absolutely. I agree.
I really am thankful that, because, I sat around this week and I did get a lot accomplished. I mean, I really did. I felt really good about it, but I felt really crazy because I know I wasted time doing things in my mind. But one thing I did learn, that you also have to schedule, what did she call it? White space.
White space, yeah.
Yes. Just that, 30 minutes or an hour or whatever, to just kind of catch up on, right. Or
yeah. And I agree. I think that's, and when she said that in the coffee talk, I remember thinking, I definitely agree with that, because you can't be so tightly scheduled every minute that when something takes longer than you thought, or, you get a phone call that you really need to or want to take, and it throws you off. So you need to have kind of a buffer, so we're not trying to suggest that you have every minute of your life scheduled, but you want to have your things on there. And also some things you may not know how long it's going to take. Now with something like making customer care calls, you can say, I'm going to do this for 30 minutes. But if you're, making those calls and then somebody wants to talk a little bit longer, well, if you have more time than that, then you may say, I'm going to bump that up to 45 minutes or an hour because I talked longer with these people and it was a good productive conversation, but I don't want to only talk to 2 people tonight, so you're going to adjust that a little bit, so some things can, you get an interruption or something comes up that, that really needs your attention. So having that buffer, maybe like I tend to schedule most of my stuff Monday through Thursday, and Friday is sort of that buffer day. So stuff that didn't get done earlier in the week, that wasn't super time sensitive, that had to be done that day, I can shift a little bit, and then I'm not going, oh my gosh, Friday's here, I need to catch up from those other days, but I have a day already scheduled that's full of stuff that I, plan to do on Friday. So that's either going to not have stuff or not as much. It might, it's going to be a lighter scheduled day, so you can kind of work with that. Sort of like when you do a meal plan, and, they recommend, so make a meal plan, but maybe leave one night out of the week that you didn't plan anything, so that if you don't feel like having that thing on Wednesday, bump that to Thursday and go get pizza on Wednesday instead, or have your leftovers from all these other meals so it's the same concept, but yeah.
And I think the thing, once we do this and once we get it implemented, and because, Janine, that's our goal, we have to do this by the end of the year. I mean, it just has to happen. Yeah. We've only been working on it since like March.
But it's happening.
It's
It
happening.
is happening, girl. It is, because I know once we do this, all that time that we're killing trying to figure out what in the heck we need to do is going to be gone.
And that's huge, Cheryl. Absolutely. I agree, because you're not spending as much time going, now, what was I supposed to do? Or did I do this or that? Or, when am I going to do it? I can look at it and say, you know what? Those thank you notes, I'm doing them Friday. It's Tuesday. I don't have to think about it. Put it on my head. It's not even an issue today. And I'm not going, oh, maybe I can squeeze those in today to get them done, because there is a spot allotted for that at another time, and I can put it out of my head. I mean, I just been doing this for these couple of weeks since we had that director meeting, and there's my little thing, my check marks for I don't know if you can see it, for
Yes.
for those 2 weeks. And I did find myself going, because I'll be honest, true confessions right here, I'm not good about customer care, and I don't do it consistently. And I've been like, all right, I got to put it on there. I just need to do it, because I would tend to be like, every once in a while, oh, well, I've got a little free time, I'll do some customer care calls. But it was not a consistent planned thing. And so, it's definitely been keeping me accountable. So,
Yeah.
All right. So let's move to the third part of this. We did monthly and weekly. Weekly is really, I believe, the big thing in terms of scheduling. Daily, really, the beauty of this plan is that your daily becomes very simple. When you on Sunday night sat down and did your weekly plan, incorporated all those different activities into your week, then your daily thing is pretty simple. I'd really encourage you to take 5 or 10 minutes at the beginning of the day, or whenever you're, going to sit down and work, really, no matter, even if you're not working Pampered Chef first thing in the morning, just kind of while you're having a cup of coffee, just look at your day. Again, just so things don't catch you by surprise. If you forgot there was that, doctor's appointment at 3:00 in the afternoon, you don't want to remember it at 2:00. It's better if you remember it at 8:00 in the morning, and can adjust if you need to. So when you get up in the morning, I have on here before that, and even that though, is feel good first. And, I know a lot of you guys, you hear me, till I'm blue in the face about this, but that feeling good about what you're doing, going into your day, whatever that looks like for you, maybe it's, putting on some great music, doing some affirmations, getting some exercise, sitting outside in the peace and quiet with your morning coffee, just even for a few minutes, but doing something, starting your day off on a really positive note. And recognizing the fact that you've got this whole beautiful day ahead of you, no matter what's happening and no matter what the details of it are. This is, you have an opportunity to make this an awesome day, one way or another. So get yourself off to on the right foot in the morning, and make sure that you feel good first about what you're doing, because everything else, I promise you, goes so much more smoothly when you start from that space. Reviewing your activities for today, kind of going, yep, okay, that's about what I expected. Adjusting as needed, because sometimes, the night before you got that call that, they need you to come into work and you weren't planning on it, so you need to make some adjustments. But you'll notice I have be careful with this, because we can get a little too flexible, right? This, I don't have it on the slide, but this brings in that whole, our hours are flexible, but not optional when it comes to your business. So if you're adjusting, and if you have to go do something, maybe they need you to come pick up your kid at school because they're sick, so you can't do those booking calls that you were going to do. So, okay, that's fine. So when are you going to do them instead? When can I move those to? Instead of just saying, well, then I'm just not going to do them, I just need to shift gears. And it's a wonderful thing about this business that we can do that, but we need to make sure that we're not being so casual about it that things end up that goes back to that other slide that said when, not if. So this is, when am I going to do this if I need to make a change, not if I decide to do it or whether or not I'm going to do it. So that definitely is an important thing. And the biggest key here from a daily standpoint is, how am I going to remember to do the stuff that I need to do? And the polls, I know that you guys responded to those polls that I put in a few of our different groups, and the remembering to do what I need to do is, got quite a bit of response. And that is absolutely one of my weaknesses. I can make a great plan. I've got it on my planner, and then I don't look at my planner. So nothing happens. I've gotten a lot better about it, but it's something that's a consistently, an issue. And I think it's, for many of us, it goes back to that building habits part of it, because once it becomes a habit, that's great. But then there's that bridge between when it's not a habit and now it is a habit. But in between there, something's got to happen to get us to that point, right? Of making that second nature. Janine, do you want to say something?
Well, I was going to say for me, and I know I marked that as one of my issues, but what I have found in the past is when I have been better about doing all of the stuff you just talked about,
Mm-hmm.
the remembering is less of an issue. And I don't know if was that about what you were going to say?
No, but I love that you said that because it's so absolutely so true. I
don't know if it's the act of writing it down or if it's the reviewing it on you know what I mean? But it just, the remembering, the having to remember just happens or I mean, goes away and the remembering happens.
Right.
Like it's just.
I think that's so true. And to me, I think one of the reasons is because we're more engaged in our business. We're more connected to it.
Yeah.
Because if all you do is do a show and then close a show and the rest of your life is non-pampered chef and you're really not touching it in any other way, it's very disconnected and you have to be much more aggressive about what am I going to do to remember to do this? When you're really engaged in your business, and I'm not at all talking about your business taking over your life and like that's the only thing that you do. But it's sort of like you probably are not going to remember to, I don't know, feed your kids in the morning. They're there. You're going to see them. Well, your kids are older. I don't feed my kids anymore either, but I used to. You know, I mean, there are things in our life that nobody needs to remind us. We just do it. And it's partly because it's a habit, certainly, but it's also because that's enough of a presence in our lives that, you know, we are aware of it without having to try that hard, you know, sort of like making dinner. I mean, most nights, I mean, I do something for dinner. It might not be something fancy. Tonight it was hot dogs and brats, but, you know, there was dinner for people to eat. I didn't set myself a reminder. It was just, you know, what we do. And it is partly habit, but also I think partly because everyone's standing around talking and it's that time of night and okay, we're going to have some dinner now, right? Because we're sort of immersed in it. And I think that, like you said, when you're doing this and being very intentional about a plan, thinking about the activities you're going to do in your business, and then you're doing them, you know, then it becomes something that's just more present. It's more front of mind. And you are having, you know, just having much more awareness about the things that involve your business at all. And then the details or the specific things on whether it's a, you know, a customer care call or what have you, you know, just are more likely to be part of your thought process. So a couple thoughts on that as far as the remembering what to do and some of the tools. I mentioned affirmations for your feel good first part of it. This is also a whole nother conversation that we can have. And there are a lot of places you can go for that. And sometimes it's as simple as saying, I am so awesome and I'm going to make this a great day. And I'm excited and I can't wait to go and, you know, see my friends or, you know, make dinner or work on my business. I can't wait to talk to my hosts and I'm really excited about this and it's going to be an awesome day. You know, it doesn't have to be any super formal affirmation thing. However, there are those things. There are great apps that you can use. There are things where you know, that you can get an email every day giving you positive affirmations. You can, you know, schedule things to pop up on your phone or on your computer if you need a little bit of a nudge to get you into that habit. You can also use Post-it notes, and I've got that as the third thing here. Post-it notes are fabulous for so many things. And it can be that reminder of how awesome you are and what's going right in my business. I have that still. I probably 3 years ago put a Post-it note on my bathroom mirror. It says, what's going right in your business? And it's still there. And I still see it and think about it every morning when I'm brushing my teeth. And every time I look at it, I'm like, that's so silly, but it's there. And so I look at it and I think about it, you know, it brings those things to mind. Your Post-it notes could be about, you know, when am I going to make those booking calls or get back to this person or what have you. And you can put them on your computer or in your office, but sometimes you need to put it like on your bathroom mirror or your refrigerator or your coffee maker. Janine, I know you've done that before. In the places you're going to see it. Because if you put it in your office and then you don't remember to go in your office, it's sort of like putting things in a planner, but then I never look in the planner, right? So, you know, you need to make sure that you're doing something that actually is going to catch you where you see it. Reminders on your phone. Most people have a phone that's, you know, fairly big part of your day. It varies depending on what else you're doing. If you're working a job where you can, you know, that sort of thing. But I think the reality is most of us have a phone that we are calling or texting or looking at something or doing something fairly often. And it can be an amazing reminder source. And I expect some of you probably do that already. I didn't do it very much, and especially for my business very much, until probably the last 6 months to a year, and I started doing it, and it's been a lifesaver. I mean, if I've got, whether it's like the home office, leader call that they do for directors, and I'll set it for 10 minutes before it's going to start, or someplace, a lot of different things like that it can just pop up with that reminder. I also recently discovered an app that is really good, and it is called Get More Done. It's a free app. I've got it on an iPhone. It's probably also for Android, but it's really neat. It's a calendar. It's a planner thing. It, pops up with that reminder, and it gives you a chance to put in things. They can be repetitive. They can be just a one-time deal. So I had in here today, I volunteered at my kid's school this morning. So I, had that in there. I had a couple virtual parties to set up. Basically, I had looked at the things I took off that checklist and put in my planner, and I've been plugging them in here. So then it pops up. So it's essentially like the, just the reminder feature on the phone, but a little bit more meat to it. And so I've been finding that that's, a handy thing. And, then when you're done, you can either swipe one way and click that it was done, or swipe the other way to either reschedule or cancel it if you, change your mind, decide not to do it. So that, is kind of a handy thing as well. It has some goals in there that you can put in and whatnot. So it has some nice features. So if you're a person who likes to do things digitally, there are a lot of resources like that too. It's something that, I think everybody has to kind of find those details of what works for each of us, like so much of this stuff. But it's very important to have something that's going to, do that for you, kind of trigger. Basically, you need a trigger. We always think of triggers as being bad things, like triggering, something negative, but a trigger can also be a good thing. So if it's going to trigger you to make that call or check your planner, even if it's just that reminder, so you've got all those activities scheduled in your planner, but if you never look at your planner, it's not going to do you any good. So if that's not a habit yet, then maybe that's what's in your reminder, is for every day at 9 o'clock in the morning, if that's your time, to look at my planner and see, take a look at today and what I'm doing and what have you. But finding some ways to make sure that a system that's set up, like that checklist and your planner, is only going to be as good as the way that we actually use it, right, and put it into practice. Janine, Cheryl, do you guys have any thoughts on that, as far as like the bridge between the scheduled stuff and actually making it happen?
No, most of the time I get, like, anything that I write down, I'm pretty good about, because right now I think a lot of my stuff is just appointments. And I've also been writing down, like, Monday at 1, I did my thank yous, and I kind of wrote that down as I was doing them. I was like, oh yeah, let me write that down. And the reason I wrote it down instead of like scheduling it, because I wanted to, like, a reference to kind of go back and see.
Absolutely. To be able to refer back to that's checked off. And yes, I did. Did I just think about that, or did I actually do it? Yeah.
Yeah. And so, kind of write that down. And then, like, today I had my thing out on post, and I intended on from 3 to 4 making calls for bookings, and from 4 to 5 making calls about recruits. And I didn't. The guys were here working on our thing, and so I just kind of marked it off. I'll reschedule it, but I just kind of put it on their thought process. But I went live in my parties. So, but I'm trying to, like, I think if I start writing it down, regardless of whatever it is, if it's before the fact or after the fact, the habit of writing it down, because I used to journal before I went to bed. Every night I'd write down in my little calendar kind of what I did for the day. Like, I haven't done that in 20 years. I'm like, I want to get back to that. And so just because you tend to, like, life goes on, and I feel like sometimes it goes by so fast that I'd like to look back and be like, oh, because sometimes when you do this, you feel like my desk still looks like a mess, but I've done a lot's happened, and I can look at it and go, okay, instead of feeling awkward and not good about myself because other things aren't done, I can look back and say, wait a minute, I got 40 hose packets made, 120 catalogs were stamped, all my minis were stamped, all that stuff is done.
Definitely is great to be able to get that sense of accomplishment
Yeah, so I'd say write down even after the fact, and that'll help you look at your calendar in the past and go, okay, well, that was doable.
Mhm.
I can mimic this day on this day, and I could actually, because I think that's my problem is just putting it down. So if I do it and then write it down, I can be like, oh, I can do this. So let me copy Monday to Monday, and I'll
Right.
just
That worked really well before, so I'm going to do that again. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
might
good
not have
idea.
discovered that it worked until because you didn't necessarily plan it that way, but that's the way it worked out. But you want to capture it to be able to repeat it.
right. And that's the problem is just you do it and you're like, how do I do this? And it paralyzes us. And I just think that shoot, just write it down and then again, like I said, repeat it.
Yeah.
That.
Janine, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with that. That's a great idea to have that, then to just be able to duplicate it or know, like you said, Jill, that you did it.
Yeah.
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 No,
I think we should journal. I mean, I think
I have done that.
Sorry.
All right, ladies. Well, we're going to just kind of wrap it up here. Do you have any other thoughts or yeah?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
If you guys have any tips for this issue I've been having, and that is I will be working on something and I'm realizing ADD because I've known this for a while, but I'll have an idea about something else that I want to do, and I feel very sort of a sense of urgency to do things so I don't forget them.
Uh-huh.
And so this is an issue I've been having where I get like these great ideas, like I'll be working on something and in the middle of working on that, I have an idea about something else that I want to do.
Mhm.
And I've been trying to, I have Post-it notes next to me and I've been trying to like make notes as those thoughts come into my head rather than stopping what I'm doing and doing that other thing, just going ahead and making sort of have a running list of ideas. It's just like I get sort of overrun with Post-it notes then, and it's not, then they get lost sometimes, and
Well,
either
I think
permanently
a
lost
couple
or
of
like
things
lost
come
in
to
a stack
mind.
of paper.
I was going to suggest that you stop what you're doing long enough to write it down, this idea,
Yeah.
and
Right.
then you sort of like a little mini brain dump kind of a thing, and then set it aside. I think that it's one of those things that's sort of a discipline to not go in that direction,
Right.
not run with it at that moment. But I think in order for you to be like feel okay with that and then not end up with just a big stack of Post-it notes with all these ideas, is have a time to revisit those. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So maybe say, okay, I'm really, I want to get these host packets done. I just came up with this idea. So I'm not going to stop doing this, but I'm going to say, like at 3:00, I'm going to take a look at these notes or whatever. So, you know what I mean? It's sort of that idea of not necessarily that it's a new idea you came up with, but like me talking about, I know I need to do thank you notes. I've got that plan for Friday, so I can put it out of my head because I'm going to come to it on Friday, right? So similar concept. You may not wait 3 days to do it because if it's something that's a great idea that you had and you're excited about it, that's fine. But maybe saying I was going to work on, or maybe I was going to do booking calls for an hour. I just came up with this great idea. Okay, I'm going to back that up and I'm only going to do booking calls for half an hour or 45 minutes so that I can visit this idea, but not in the middle of them. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, but I think that you're probably going to feel better about delaying it if there is a plan for coming back to it, and not a someday plan, but a specific designated.
Well, I'll tell you what, I do the same thing. I'll be working on something and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I got to do this. Like for the Best of Clarksville, I'm thinking, oh, I've got these Help with Cancer bags and, oh, I need to go get the Help with Cancer bags out. And, and I'm like, no, it's August. That event's not till October. So in this notebook that I've got that has all these different tabs in it, I actually made a tab that says Cheryl over here. And I made a top tab, like it's the only top tab. There's no other top tabs. and it says read. So I know that I've got a tab on here and I need to read it. So I just write down things as I come to them, like they come to me. Like one of them is, you know, those bags. And then the other one is this thing to bring to the retreat. You know, I'm thinking about it. Well, good Lord, that's not till the end of September. I don't need to think about it now, but I might forget about it. So I just started like having my own one area that I can write all that down, and it's all in one spot. And then then you can take it and go, okay, let me move it to my calendar so I won't forget it.
Mm-hmm.
But at least have a notebook to where when you're working, it's just like like before when at the office, I had this desk calendar, and that was where all my ideas went. You know, anything that I was ever thinking of was on that desk calendar, you know, the monthly calendar, and you'd rip it off and you go to the next one. I would keep that in my drawer all year because I'd go back to it because I knew I had good notes on it. So I keep this notebook open to this spot while I'm in here to kind of drop that brain dump off and move on.
Definitely for things like where you're, Cheryl, describing things like where you remembered something. Oh, that's right, I need to do this.
Yeah.
Where you can dump that by going into your calendar and putting it in there for that week before the retreat on your list of things to take with you, you know, kind of thing. A little bit different if, Janine, you mentioned having like an idea, and you might be, no, this was an idea for like a theme party that I want to do, or you know, like sort of a more like a new idea.
Right.
Not something you remembered that needs to be on your to-do list. So
Well, a little bit of both.
Could be either one. But the thing that I remember that needs to go on my calendar, that's sort of the easy one. Because you could even stop your, you know, booking calls long enough to grab your calendar and write it on there. It's going to take 10 seconds. You know what I mean? You could do that, or you could jot it down on a notebook like Cheryl's describing, and then go back and add to your calendar later. But those are things that are a simpler item, right? Where it's just like, oh, I need to remember this thing. Whereas if you start to get an idea of, oh my gosh, this would be a really cool thing to do a show, I want to develop that some more. How am I going to work with that? That would be really fun, but I need to flesh it out a little bit, you know, that kind of thing. You know, I would say write yourself either a Post-it note or a notebook like Cheryl mentioned, or something like that. But with a plan of when am I going to allot time to come back to that, because I don't want to lose that. That's a value. This just isn't the best time maybe to stop what I'm doing and shift over to that. So yeah, I think that would be, you know, a good thing to make sure that, you know, and maybe that's one of those white space kind of times, you know what I mean? As having some time periodically to say, you know, I want to just let my mind wander a little bit. You know, I want to think about, you know, these are some things I've been kind of mulling, and I want to, you know, allow myself some time with that cup of coffee in the morning after the kids go to school or whatever, to kind of say, okay, let the creative juices flow a little bit on some of these things that I've kind of been popping into my head that I need to just spend some time on to see if it's going to go someplace and where that's going to take me. But I think that to me, it's always been very freeing to have things on the schedule, because then I don't feel like it's a now or never thing. Like I need to do this right now or I'm going to lose it, or, you know, it's not going to get done or something like that. So that's one of the things that's sort of comforting, if you will, about having a schedule that you're working with, is that you can choose what goes on the schedule. And one of those things can be coming back to this idea that I want to play with some more.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree.
So,
okay.
All right, guys, I have only one more slide. It's from Miss Dana Wild. Feel good first and then take action. Both, I think, are very important parts. Kind of, I guess, everything we talked about tonight kind of comes down to these two things, right? Feel good, find your why, set the goals that support that why, and feel good about that and the possibilities and believing part of it, and then taking action from that place, which means it's going to be a plan that you are excited about putting into practice and doing again, and making part of your routine, so that you're enjoying what you're doing, feeling good about it, and getting great results. What more could we ask for, right?
Right.
So, all right. Woo-hoo. Well, thank you guys for being on tonight. I'm going to post this recording so everybody who was not able to be on tonight can still hang out with us a little bit. And anybody who's watching this, if you have questions, anything about anything that we've talked about or taking this in different directions, what have you, would love to talk more about that. And you can get in touch with me, Janine, Cheryl, Susanna, Teresa, your director, a Pampered Chef buddy, your recruiter, whoever that might be. All of the above, and there's always more that can be expanded on and everything, but I think that's going to do it for us for tonight.
Yay. Thank you, Jill.
You are very welcome. You guys have a great night.
You
Talk to you
too.
soon. Okay.
Okay.
Bye.